All right, we got three big questions for Auburn as we enter the new year.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Joining me on today's show, Mike G of the War Rapport. Also, you can find him over on Locked On UCF. Be sure to give him some love everywhere. But yeah, thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Mike G, we enter 2025 with still several questions. Despite a very successful portal window, is the scheme going to be fine this season? What is Auburn going to do to add bodies to the defensive front? But we'll start things off with the first question. Who's Auburn's number one running back? A lot of people thought Jeremiah Cobb, myself included, would enter the portal. He did not. Demari Austin seems to be the reigning guy. They go out and get Darrell Robinson. I've seen a handful of outlets project him to be running back one. I think it's Demari Austin being Auburn's main running back going into spring, but I do think that could change.
Yeah, it could, but unlikely, I think. Demari's going to get the first shot. Now, let's put this in context, Zach. Who is Auburn replacing? Well, when Jarquez Hunter got here, I said that he would finish a top 2 or 3 rusher in Auburn history. He finished 4. You have to replace the 4th best rusher in school history in Jarquez Hunter. And Demari Austin has been the clear backup this entire time. I don't see that changing this spring, apart from injury. Now, I know from talking to both Demari and to Derek Nix how much Derek Nix is high on Demari Austin. He loves this kid. He's going to get the next shot at running back. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
Yeah. And I kind of assumed Demari would stay and Jeremiah Cobb would leave. I didn't think there was a world where you would keep them both, but neither of them entered the portal. And you had Darrell Robinson, you had Alvin Henderson. And so it's like, okay, I think the running back room is fine. I think it gives you options. Don't think it's as good as it was a year ago because none of these guys are Jarquez Hunter, but they all do different things. They do different things well, we think. Assuming Demari Austin could take care of the football, which he got better at over the course of the season. Yeah, kind of had some fumbling issues early on. Like, what does that look like if it's a larger workload? Or do they divvy it up more since none of them project to be as effective as Jarquez Hunter? Do we see a true running back by committee moving forward? That might be the most likely option.
Well, Jeremiah Cobb is an underrated pass catcher. As a matter of fact, he's a very good pass catcher. So he gives you a dynamic. Maybe Demari's not a bad pass catcher, but I think Cobb is a better pass catcher. Okay. If Demari loses the job, it's going to be because of ball security, 100%. It's going to be because he's not taking care of the football. So he's got to go out there and he's got to handle the fundamentals, Zach. He's got to do those things at a high level. And I think he has a chance to be a really good running back here. With Cobb coming in and spelling him with significant time, though. So what did the division of snaps look like last year? Well, if Jarquez was getting 20 snaps, Demari was somewhere between 8 to 10 snaps, Zach. And I would expect the same division of snaps if Demari is an effective runner. If he's not, then I think they're going to go with the hot hand here, and that's where Cobb has a chance to step in.
Cobb's upside is the highest in the room. And I don't think that's crazy to say. Let me know if you want to push back on that. But I think Jeremiah Cobb's upside is elite. And I think that's why it kind of confused a lot of people with how little we saw of him last year. Jeremiah Cobb played 82 snaps last year, which is way lower than I think most people predicted. And myself included in this, we all kind of thought that he would eventually pass Demari Austin in the pecking order behind Jarquez Hunter. That didn't happen. And was that because he didn't fit a certain scheme or role? I don't know. Like, were they looking for a certain thing? You got to think if that was the case, Cobb would have left. And so you got to think that they sold to Cobb, hey, you've got a chance to come in and compete to be running back one. Demari Austin played 167 snaps, so just a hair over double what Cobb did. But I'm just like, I'm super interested to see how this Hugh Freeze offense can use multiple running backs. I don't, based off of last year, I mean, I think we all agree they didn't use Jarquez Hunter enough. I just wonder, can two running backs be used effectively based off of the sample size of last year in Hugh Freeze's system?
Yeah, here's my question about the division of reps and what I think affects it the most. Jackson Arnold ran the ball 150 times last year for Oklahoma. And if you're going to give the ball to the quarterback at that rate, I wonder how many snaps they're going to be able to go around to the backup. Now, for context,
how many times?
150 rushes last year Jackson Arnold had, right? So for context, Zach, Peyton Thorne had 134 carries in 2023, and he was hoping to run the ball less in 2024, which he did. So, but still 112 carries. So how much is Hugh Freeze going to run Jackson Arnold? It may take snaps away from the backup running back. I think if he can be effective as a passer, they're going to want to save his legs so that he can run more, in emergencies rather than by design. If Hugh Freeze can happen, because his quarterbacks are normally throwing the ball close to 400 times per season. These were aberrations here with Peyton Thorne the last couple of years with how much he had to run the ball versus how much he threw it. Now, they did get his pass attempts up, and that's why I think you saw a little bit more feeding back to those running backs. But they've got to continue to move that direction with Jackson Arnold, and I think that's where Demari and Jeremiah benefit the most.
Peyton did miss a game and a half.
He did.
So that 112, if he plays the full game like he did the year prior,
I'll be 130.
You're probably, you're above 120, I think, conservatively, right? So, was it that big of a difference? I don't know. It felt like it, but the numbers don't really show that. So I don't fully know what to do with that information. But we'll see. I expect there to be a true battle in spring, and I also think the way you manage it is you have to make every running back room that that you think has a chance of leaving, probably not Darrell, probably not Alvin, but definitely Demari and Jeremiah. They need to leave spring. They need to wrap up 8A with the belief that they can be the guy this fall.
Yeah.
So they stay away from the portal.
Agreed. That belief is a powerful thing. And I think a lack of that belief is why you saw an empty quarterback room. After the fall, right? Those guys, to some extent, I think, believed that they did not see a clear path to QB1 or maybe even QB2. And so they said, I'm out. You can't have the same problem in your running back room. I think that there needs to be a clear pecking order. I think it is clear. And here's the thing. There's no question, I think, that Jarquez Hunter was the best back in that room. And when the guy in front of you is playing well, waiting your turn is a lot easier to stomach. It really is.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's a little clearer in the running back at room than it is at some other positions. The same thing at wide receiver. There was some speculation about Perry Thompson, but look, man, there's no debate about whether Keandre Lambert-Smith and Cam Coleman were the best receivers on this team. They just were. So in the running back room, I think you have a little bit of that same dynamic there where there was a clear pecking order. Demari is next up. Jeremiah, if he is happy getting what Demari got last year, then you stay. And if you're not, then you fight for QB1 or you look at your options.
Yeah, I think that's well said.
That's the RB1. I'm an RB1.
No, I got you. You're good. What does Auburn need to do regarding the defensive line? That's another big question heading into 2025. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Mike G, can you imagine wagering anywhere other than with our friends at FanDuel?
I can't. And the college football playoff is on right now as we speak. And I got some money on it. But my game got moved. Yeah.
So that'll be tonight as folks are tuning into this one as it drops. But hey, right now you can get some bonus money. New customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many different ways for you to pick up a W. I love betting on players that'll score a touchdown, or obviously you can do point spreads, whatever it might be. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NFL and the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Mike G of the War Rapport and Locked On UCF, of course, hanging out with us today. I think Auburn probably performed better than any other team in the transfer portal. I still do have questions about the bodies on defensive line and linebacker, but for today, I think we need to ask the question about defensive line, just because I think you could go young at linebacker and survive. I don't think you have enough dudes in the room to go through a season in the SEC when it comes to the defensive line room. And this is a position group where you saw them go heavy on the D line after spring practice last year. They went out and got Bleedy and Rakes, and I know I'm leaving a few guys out, but you were able to add solid additions, not stars, but solid additions. And I guess they're okay putting themselves in that situation again.
Yeah, look, last spring, you and I both stood next to each other at spring practice and noted that Malik Blockton looked insane.
Sure.
And so where I'm looking is I'm looking for the young guys to take the next step on that D line. There's some talent down there, and look, you lose leadership and guys like Jason Jones. I think Gage Keys jumped into the transfer portal, right?
He went back to Kansas.
Yeah, but you return guys like Keldrick Falk. You mentioned Philip Bleedy. I spoke with him. He could not stop gushing about Malik Blockton, and this kid came in and similarly, kind of like to the O line, where you got really highly rated talent like DeAndre Carter, who maybe is a little bit forgotten, but we're hoping will step up this year. I think Auburn is in the same position on D-line where there's some guys there that we expect to step up and have a really good season. And then, I'm interested to see if in that second transfer portal, Zach, they try to kind of solidify that room and gain some depth.
Yeah, and I saw somewhere Jeffrey Mbod's expected to visit this weekend, so that would be an interesting addition. It'd be cool to see him back on campus for sure. I guess he got more eligibility too because of the JUCO rule stuff, which is awesome for him. But some of the young guys, I mean, if you told me Malik Autry, hit the ground running as a true freshman, I that would not surprise me. Same with Antonio Coleman, same with Jordan Crawford. Like, these are guys that are projected to see the field early on. I just don't love counting on that. And even if you go through spring and you've got 3 freshmen that you love through the spring, you still just you can't have too many serviceable defensive linemen. That's what makes the elite teams really good, is they have so much depth at key positions. And obviously defensive line is one of those. I can't imagine them not getting 2 or 3, or Mike, I almost want to say 4, like quality defensive linemen before the season starts.
Yeah, look, we know that DJ Durkin wants to rotate a ton of guys, and the development is happening on that side of the ball. Talking to these guys post season, Zach, I did a download with Players 101. This they talked about what it's like to play on DJ Durkin's defense down on that D line. They described it as high intensity. They said he's organized and he expects a lot. He has high expectations down there. So, look, he's made it clear what the pecking order, I think, is for the guys that are playing down there. But he's also made it clear that they're not going to stop going out to continue to get talent, because he believes that if you're not 8 to 10 deep down there, you're playing with fire in the SEC. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, some of the best Auburn defenses had that. I mean, that was something that Rodney Garner did a lot.
Oh my goodness, he was so good at it.
Yeah, for sure. And a lot of that is going out and getting the talent. You just lost so much. Like, we say it over and over again, but Gage Keys, Troll Carter, Philip Bleedy, Isaiah Rakes, Jason Jones, and then some of the guys that you thought would take a step forward, like Darren Reed, stepping away, TJ Lindsey stepping away. So you lost a lot. And so we'll see what kind of impact some of these freshmen can have, but they're going to need more than that. Like, I know Keldrick's going to play some defensive line, but the way it's charted is like he's going to play in/edge, and those guys are typically at a different spot of practice when they do indie stuff. And it's just, they don't have many guys. They don't have many interior guys. And so I know Keldrick could scoot inside to play 3, but you need more than that. So we'll see. We'll see exactly what that looks like. Does Amaris Williams get more reps at the 3 because of this spring? He could. Yeah. I don't love it. I don't love that, but I get it. So if that's what they've got to do through spring and then kind of assess with what they're at, and then Will Redmond does his thing in the spring portal, whatever. That's fine. That's fine.
Funny, though, Amaris was one of the names that flirted with the transfer portal, right? And then ended
I don't think he flirted, Mike. I mean, he flat out went in there.
Yeah, and then decided he was coming back. So
I think that should be counted as an Auburn transfer portal win. It's not on any of the services, but it should be, because like he would have been one of the better defensive linemen in the portal. And Auburn got him to come back. So I feel like that should count in all of these metrics, but it doesn't. I don't know why. But it doesn't. Is the scheme going to be okay on offense this season? We discuss in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets. Mike, you know this. You know this. It doesn't matter if it's for football or basketball or baseball, a concert, theater, a comedy show. It doesn't matter what it is. Game Time has you covered. Game Time has you covered. And also, you can check out Game Time picks. You can browse through the deals super quick, and they kind of just tell you, hey, this is the best value. And I've done that several times now. So you should do it too. Download the Game Time app. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That is at Game Time. $20 off. Use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest prices guaranteed. All right, I guess the final question that we'll ask, at least on today's show, as we are now firmly in 2025, Mike G, is Auburn's offensive scheme going to be okay? And honestly, when it comes to wins and losses, this is the biggest question, because I think the defense is going to be fine, despite some of the discussions we've had today already. I just trust that they're going to get that figured out. Was it scheme? Was it personnel? I don't know, but something was lacking. And Daryl and I talked about this on yesterday's show, Mike. Like the numbers are fine. It's just points. They didn't score points. And the turnovers were untimely. But is that scheme? Was it bad luck? Was it the quarterback? That, to me, that's the biggest question. That's the biggest question in 2025.
Is the scheme going to be fine? Yes, you made a good point about the statistics. Statistically, Auburn was better 2024 than they were in 2023. It's not even debatable. But situational play calling failed Auburn again and again, Zach. And look, if you disagree with me, argue with the wall. I'm sorry. There's no way you looked at the play calling in critical moments. Some of the confusion that we saw, I think, comes back to scheme and how you coach that scheme and everybody's understanding of what to do within that. Now, again, in my download with the players postseason, this is probably the biggest area of improvement offensively that I think Auburn has to make in the spring. And that is getting everybody on the same page so that on game day, when it's 4th and 1 and you're down 2 scores in the fourth quarter on the road and a play is called, everybody knows what they're supposed to be doing and where they're supposed to be. It didn't happen enough. And Auburn, as a result, lost a lot of games that they should have won, Zach. Auburn had enough talent to go 8-4 last year. They did. Had enough talent.
I agree with you. I mean, we saw that against Cal. We saw that against Arkansas. We saw that against Oklahoma. We saw that against Missouri. It's like if you win just a few of those games, it like totally changes the vibe around your program. And it probably helps you get a few more recruits or hold on to 1 or 2 of them. So that's not a talent thing. That was either just not being able to finish or putting yourself in too big of a hole early on. You couldn't quite crawl out of it, whatever. But still, and we made this joke just because we were kind of like laughing through the pain of it all last year of like Auburn kept finding different ways to lose football games.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, like at some point, it's like, okay, this is on the head coach. Like, you can blame Peyton for the pick six against Oklahoma. You can blame the defense for that long drive that they gave up against Missouri at the end of the game. You can blame Hank for the 3 picks in the first half against Arkansas. Whatever. The list goes on and on and on and on. But Hugh Freeze needs to get these guys ready. And he needs to kind of be ready to execute when it matters most. And on a consistent level, that was not the case last year. But just credit, it got better over the course of the year. Looked really good against Texas A&M. Big lead, almost fell apart, but they won in 4 overtimes. ULM looked good, whatever. Moments against Alabama defensively, they looked really good. So it just, to me, it's like, okay, did they get better over the course of the season? My gut says yes, but does that even matter? Like, does that carry over into the offseason? I don't know.
Yeah, look, when you see the upside that they had last year versus the downside, and you see that the floor and the ceiling are so far apart, Zach, right? That points to, again, systemic issues and how you coach it. And that's what he's got to figure out. We heard him say time after games, we got to figure out how to coach it better. Well, that may sound like coach speak, but I think it's real. In my conversation, I think he's telling
the truth there. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Like, they do have to figure out how to coach it better. So, look, Payton Thorne took a lot of the heat for Auburn's offensive issues last year, but last year he is who he was when you brought him here. Right? Mm-hmm. He was a guy who was capable of throwing for around 3,000 yards. If he didn't sit that game and a half that you referenced earlier in this segment, he maybe does it. He's going to be up there in terms of single season touchdowns in Auburn history. I mean, he just is who he was when you brought him here. You had to find a way to make sure that when critical moments happen, that the game wasn't on him. And you didn't need him to make the Superman play. You had to scheme it up differently. And time again, I think they found themselves in situations where you're asking your personnel to do things your personnel may not be capable of. But was there a better way? Was there a route to something different than what we saw? They moved the ball in the Iron Bowl. They did, right? You're moving the ball, and then you call a halfback pass, right? And then you get spooked by your kicker, and instead of taking the points, your kicker misses a field goal, and it just felt like that flow of, okay, here's what we got to do, never really hit last year, and they definitely got to fix that this spring.
Yeah, just the inability to get out of your own way, or then like Jarquez Hunter's ripping 6.5 a touch in a certain game, and it's like, why aren't you giving it to him? Why aren't you giving it to him? And like when the question is about the quarterback play, it's like, well, then why is everything going through the quarterback? Or it took so long for them to start targeting Cam Coleman 8 times a game. And they're like, well, it's what the defense gave us. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
We didn't go in there with a plan. It's like, I don't know.
I took some heat, Zach, for saying this. And people hate the comparison when you talk about the school up the road. But we just watched a game yesterday where a guy who they were ready to hand the Heisman after the Georgia game, and Jalen Milroe, their fans were like, oh my God, I'm so happy he's done. Get him out of here, right? But one thing Alabama did consistently was they didn't make any excuses. No matter what Jalen Milroe was doing right or wrong, he was throwing Ryan Williams the ball. Period. Flat out. Just no excuses. Just throw it up to your playmaker. He's that kind of guy. You're talking about a top 5 overall kid coming out of high school. That's your dude. You just throw, you force the ball to. You got to force the ball to anybody. So I agree with you. The whole, we take what the defense gives. That's not why you bring Cam Coleman here. You bring him here because he dictates how the defense has to guard you. And if he is the threat every play to get the ball, it should open the offense up for everybody, but they've got to see him do it. And they didn't see him do it enough over the first part of the season. And then late they started doing it, and you saw what it did for that offense. So you had 2 guys capable of that, and Keandre Lambert-Smith and Cam Coleman. And if you ask me, those guys should have been 60 and 80 catch guys this year.
Yeah, and you've got 3 guys like that now. You've got Cam Coleman, you've got Malcolm Simmons, and you have Eric Singleton.
Perry Thompson, yep.
And you hope Perry Thompson is that. He certainly can be. Like, can he get to that point this offseason? We'll see.
He definitely is that guy.
I'm all for, physically, it's like, if that guy figures it out, it's going to be awesome. But yeah, I understand, like, you take what the defense gives you, but at some point, especially when the offense isn't clicking, it's like, okay, let's just see if Coleman catches this. Let's just see if he can kind of give us a shot in the arm here. And it seems like most of the time he was asked to do something, he was able to do it. So we'll see. But yeah, those are our questions, at least heading into 2025. Who's Auburn's RB1? What are they going to do with defensive line? And is Auburn's offensive scheme going to be okay? Mike G, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Going over to YouTube, check us out at the War Rapport. We're live on Wednesday and Sunday nights, all off season, plus the Auburn Express coming at you 3 to 4 times a week. Lots of great content. My guy Kyle Rush joins me every week to talk Auburn football. Also check me out at Locked On UCF, part of the Locked On Network.
Yeah. Go make Locked On UCF your second listen for sure. Hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.